In the village of Nyandira, where the river Luhinda flowed like a silver snake through the valleys, the people believed that water was sacred. They bathed in it with reverence, spoke softly near it, and offered the first sip of every drink to the ancestors who dwelled beneath its surface. One rainy night, as thunder rolled across the sky, a newborn baby was left at the riverbank, wrapped in a faded kitenge cloth. No one knew who had abandoned her, and no one came to claim her. At dawn, an old woman named Mama Zawadi, who lived by the river, found the child. She lifted the baby gently, watching as the rain slid off her skin, as though she were part of the water itself. "The river has chosen her," Mama Zawadi whispered. She took the baby home, naming her Marjani, meaning coral, after the treasures found deep in the water. Marjani grew up different from the other children in Nyandira. She could hold her breath longer than anyone while swimming. She knew when the rains would come, even when the sky was clear, and the river spoke to her in whispers that no one else could hear. But not everyone in the village saw this as a gift. "She is not one of us," some villagers murmured. "She belongs to the spirits of the river." Others avoided her, fearing that the river had cursed her. The only ones who truly loved her were Mama Zawadi and her childhood friend, Jabali, a kind-hearted boy who never feared her strange connection to the water. Despite the whispers, Marjani remained kind and hardworking, but deep in her heart, she longed to be accepted. One day, a wealthy merchant and his wife, Baba and Mama Nia, arrived in the village. They were seeking a bride for their only son, and their daughter Zahara was the most admired young woman in Nyandira. But when the merchant's son saw Marjani carrying water from the river, he was mesmerized. "Who is that girl?" he asked. When he learned that she was the abandoned child raised by Mama Zawadi, he declared, "She is the one I will marry." Zahara, who had always been the most beautiful, the most admired, and the most desired, felt jealousy burn inside her. How could a girl with no family, no wealth, and no name win what she had spent her whole life preparing for? That night, as the village slept, Zahara crept to Mama Zawadi's hut and placed a bundle of cowrie shells at the doorstep, a gift for the spirits. She then whispered into the night, "Take Marjani back into the river where she belongs." The next morning, as Marjani walked to the river, something felt strange. The water, usually calm in the morning, was restless. The wind whispered her name, but it was not welcoming. It was urgent. Before she could turn back, a strong force pulled her into the water. The villagers searched for her, but she was gone. Some shook their heads. "The river has claimed its daughter." Zahara smiled. At first, life in Nyandira went on, but soon the river began to shrink. The fish disappeared, the wells dried, the crops withered, the elders grew fearful. "The river is angry," they said. "It has taken Marjani, and now it is punishing us." Meanwhile, deep beneath the waters, Marjani found herself in a world of shimmering blue light. The spirits of the river surrounded her, their voices gentle but firm. "You were born of the water, Marjani. We have watched over you since you were a child, but your heart has always belonged to the land. If you wish to return, you must prove that your spirit is truly human." Marjani bowed her head. "I do not wish to belong to the river if it means losing my home." "Then you must be called back," the spirit said. One night, as the village elders gathered at the dry riverbed, a soft voice rose from the trees. It was Jabali. He stood at the edge of the cracked earth, lifting his hands to the sky. Marjani, he called, if you're out there, if you can hear me, come home. The village needs you. The wind carried his words across the land, over the hills, down into the depths of the river, and the river answered. Marjani bowed her head. I do not wish to belong to the river if it means losing my home. Then you must be called back, the spirit said. A great storm rolled in, and the rain poured harder than it ever had before. The villagers ran to the river's edge, shielding their eyes from the wind. Then, as the first rays of dawn broke through the clouds, a figure emerged from the mist. Mariani, the villagers gasped. She walked toward them, water dripping from her skin, her eyes fierce and determined. I am not a spirit, she said. I am not a curse. I am a daughter of Nyandira. The villagers, ashamed of their doubts, knelt before her. Even Sahara, trembling, stepped forward. Forgive me, she whispered. I was blinded by jealousy. Marjani smiled, though her eyes were sad. The river forgives, but it does not forget. From that day on, Marjani was honored as the guardian of the river, and Nyandira never suffered from drought again. She married Jabali, the only one who had never doubted her, and together they taught the village to respect the water, not as a spirit to be feared, but as a mother that gives life. As for Zahara, she spent the rest of her days tending to the riverbank, ensuring that no one else would ever try to take away what belonged to the water. And so, the river and the village lived in harmony, forever remembering the lesson of the forgotten daughter who was never truly forgotten.